Hello and welcome to Ditching Hourly. I'm Jonathan Stark. Today I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Louis Grenier. Louis, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I could say the same about you in terms of the myth, the legend, the man, whatever. Thanks for having me, and thanks for fighting the good fight for years and years and years. So yeah, it's a pleasure, man.
Today, folks, we're going to talk about Louis's new book, the business strategy behind the book, and the launch. But before we do that, Louis, could you tell folks a little bit about who you are and what you do in case someone listening hasn't already been listening to your podcast for years?
Yeah, I'm a guy who helps marketers stand the fuck out. That's the simplest tagline I could come up with.
Hmm.
In a few more words, I always been into marketing in terms of understanding psychology and why people buy stuff from a young age. Didn't connect the dots until I was 20, 21, that it could be a career. I've been playing with projects and working in companies for years. So tech companies, did my own agency, burnt out in a year and a half doing that. Started a podcast called Everyone Hates Marketers that I started to do on the side, and it's been what 8 years, but I've actually stopped doing it now. We can talk about that and why.
Hmm.
And yeah, the book is the last project I've been focusing on.
Excellent. Well, let's dive right in. So tell folks a little bit about the book, but I really do want to talk about the strategy and the launch because it seemed like a huge amount of work. It seemed like it went really well. And I know publishing a book is something that a lot of listeners are interested in doing to build their authority, get more and better clients, and so forth. So, first, maybe just tell folks a little bit about the book.
Sure. Marketers nowadays, when I say marketers, I talk about marketing business owners, so folks selling marketing services or digital PR, whatever else that is close enough to marketing, but also in-house marketers and then reluctant marketers. So I would say your audience tend to fall more into the reluctant marketers where they are not marketers per se, but they have to use marketing reluctantly, for lack
Hmm.
of to say it mildly. So anyway, when I say marketers, that's what I mean. They are overwhelmed by the choices, overwhelmed by the new tech, overwhelmed by the fact that things are changing all the time, or at least that's what they are made to believe. Overwhelmed by like just AI and like, there's just so many things, right? So they are drowning in possibilities and what to do,
Hmm.
and they don't know what to do. They don't know who to trust. They read marketing books and listen to marketing podcasts, and it tends to be focused on flavor of the month and tactics and new things. And at their worst form, those books and podcasts and guides and gurus or whatever you want to call them tend to gaslight marketers into believing that marketing is changing all the time, that there are secrets you don't know, that you're just one funnel away from success and richness. And that's a big deal to me because this is not true, all of this, right? It's pure gaslighting. I know you had Alex Smith, who wrote the No BS strategy book,
Yep.
talking about that, about first principles, and I completely believe in the same thing, which is like going back to first principles when it comes to marketing, which is understanding people, selling what they want or what they think they want. We can talk about the difference between the two, and so all of that leads to a much clearer path to stand out. It took me 3 years to write that thing, to research and whatever. I've done a lot of work before publishing to make sure it was good, that people liked it. You were part of a group of people who reviewed it before. Thank you again for that. We can talk about that in more detail. And yeah,
Sure.
the result is the marketing book I've always wanted to read, but I couldn't find. It's a mix of a textbook written for like college students in terms of its structure, which is quite rigid in a sense, and a children's book with like vocabulary of a 5-year-old almost, and with a voice that captures what I hope is me.
Yeah,
Um,
it does sound like you for sure.
Thanks. So I'll stop here. The last thing I would say, because we are teasing the book or whatever, I've put together an offer just for your listeners. Um, Instead of so they can get the ebook, the PDF, the EPUB file delivered directly to their email, plus a couple of extra stuff like action kits or whatever, for just $9. The Kindle is 9.99 on Amazon, so that's cheaper. And the
Mhm.
link, I'll send it to you, but the link is STFO for stand the fuck out. So stfo.link/teaching early.
Cool.
And yeah, for $9. So it's the cheaper option. You can't find that publicly. So that's for your people. And I'll stop here.
Cool. Yeah, I'll link that in the show notes. So, folks who are familiar with your podcast probably know what to expect from the book. But for folks who haven't listened to Everyone Hates Marketers, what would you say is different about this book than something like, I don't know, some other typical marketing book?
So it's split in four key stages: insight foraging, unique positioning, distinctive brand, and continuous reach. And it goes back to the very, very basic of what it actually takes to stand a fuck out. So there's core things that are being shared in marketing business books that are not true, that are debunked. Not through just my knowledge, because I have very little, but I'm learning a lot from others. One of the biggest one is saying like differentiate or die. So that's a classic book. Like positioning by Trout and forgot their other name. They've
Reese, yeah.
defined the term and made it public, whatever, but they talk about differentiating or dying. And that's not true. So you don't have to be different to be successful. And differentiation, for example, is not a gimmick. Differentiation is the ability to serve people that have ignored struggles, problems, pain points, whatever you want to call them, that alternatives, direct competitors, indirect competitors are not solving well. And I know your previous guest, Alex Smith, was talking about value, and that's where value is. It's the ability to solve stuff that people care about, better than the alternatives or differently than alternatives. So there's a basically bunch of debunking going on throughout the book. Or another one is customer loyalty is not going to grow your business. Yes, it's important to do good service that customers will like and will hopefully come back. But there's so many factors that you cannot control that will make people leave you. They can change job, they can die, they can divorce, they can move to a new location. None of that is something that you can control. And a better way is to not obsess solely over customer loyalty, although it's important, but it also to continuously reach more people who
Hmm.
fit, who can be category buyers. So it's really obsessing over that instead of obsessing over keeping every client.
Okay, cool. Let me ask you about what's the distinction between standing the fuck out and differentiating?
So standing the fuck out started as a little it was a product that I started to sell on my newsletter a couple of years ago. I mean 4 years ago at this stage or 5 years ago at this stage. I came up with the term on a whim. I didn't think of a grandiose plan of anything. And I sold that cohort-based course. And what I started to see happening was people using the term back to me. So and using it as a philosophy almost as like almost like, oh, I need to stand the fuck out, meaning I need to like muster the courage and I need to do it in a way that is unapologetic, all of that stuff. And that wasn't at all my plan, but it happened. So it
Hmm.
happened and I was like, uh-huh, that's interesting. May need to do something about this. So I started to talk about it more and whatever. And then the methodology that I built around it was a methodology that I used before, but I really refine it and refine it. So the difference is that I make a distinction between differentiation, meaningful differentiation, which is what I said earlier, solving ignore struggles better or differently than alternatives. So that's where value is. It's when you solve that. And distinctiveness, which is sometimes used in the same way, but it's not the same thing. So
Hmm.
distinctiveness is about sticking to people's minds without having to dance naked with a pineapple on your head to be
Yeah,
noticed, right? So
stunts.
you can stand the fuck out without being differentiated, meaning you can offer launch services just like the others, same product, same type of pricing, whatever. But you can be highly distinctive, maybe with a mascot, maybe with a van with a, I don't know, like a huge fucking pot on top of it and whatever. I don't know. Right? So you can also do the other way. You can be highly differentiated. So you can have a strong differentiation, unique positioning, with a distinctiveness, right? So that means you can offer something that is highly valuable for people, but you don't do anything in terms of distinctive brands
Okay.
because you don't necessarily need to, right? So
Interesting.
standing the fuck out is a philosophy nowadays. It seems like where it's about having the courage to do what you really want to do, having the courage to try new things, to take some risk, and understanding that the least risky path is to stand out, right? And Seth Godin talks about that a lot, right?
Yeah. So is it so it feels like the way you're just yeah, because I know people are gonna be confused by this listening, so I wanna drill on a
Well,
little
let's
bit.
clear that up then.
Yeah, so it sounds a little bit like the standing the fuck out is a little bit more like branding or personal branding, and the differentiation is more about the actual product or service and how it solves a problem.
Right, exactly. So the first stage is insight foraging. So one of the first principle is to go back to how people behave, right? So we gather insight and can go into detail about what type. We gather insight from different sources or just one source or your own brain, whatever. And then we use that to first develop a unique positioning. So with a unique positioning, we give the right people a compelling reason to choose us over the others. It's about finding specific problems that the competition has overlooked. This is
Yep,
where you may find new market space and how you can win as an underdog. So that's the unique positioning part. It's the rational, almost scientific part of standing out. So
yep,
with that, you achieve meaningful differentiation because it has a meaning, it has a value people care about. Then you have a distinctive brand. So the what I wanted for this methodology to be is that you can apply it to anything, meaning your own personal brand, a big brand, a specific launch, a specific product, or whatever. So whatever area of focus you pick at the start of the book, you follow through all the way. So if we talk about you, let's say, and we pick you as the brand, the person behind the brand that sells multiple services, the unique positioning will be for you, and the distinctive brand will be about you. But if we pick this podcast, the unique positioning will be about the podcast, and its distinctive brand will be about the podcast as well, right? So it's throughout the book, there is always some sort of a tension, a dance. Like it's a bit like tango. It's never fully 100%, never fully 0%. It's always in between. So
mm,
it's always like a mix of unique positioning and distinctive brand that will bring you to where you want to go, also reaching more people. But it's never that clear cut, right? You need mixtures of stuff, and it's a bit of taste as well, creative taste, and
mhm.
just the experience of knowing whether that sounds right, that feels right. It's yeah,
Okay, okay. No, I think that clears it up quite a bit. Mhm. So let's
great.
talk about the strategy. So you mentioned that you worked on this for 3 years. Why would someone go to all that trouble to, there must be some business strategy behind it. So why don't you if you could get into that and sort of some of the pitfalls and so forth that you had to wrestle with over the course of those 3 years?
So I've always wanted to be an author. I never believed I could be one day until recently. I always thought my writing wasn't good. I heard from other people when I was younger that I shouldn't really be writing. It's not really for you, especially
It's
because being French, English not being my first language, and me living in Dublin for 15 years, always wanted to do stuff in English, like the marketing field and whatever. So yeah, I had this kind of belief that I couldn't do it, but in the back of my head, that was always something I wanted to do pri- primarily because people like Seth Godin. I think Seth Godin is the first author that I picked a book from. And whenever I want to learn something new, whenever I'm interested in a topic, like I don't know mushrooms, I've booked this book about the 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 life of mushrooms and whatever. Apparently, it's really good. I need to read it. I love picking books, and I realized then when I interview people on my podcast, I picked people based on mainly the book I've been reading to
right.
talk about. So I knew that it would be a foundational shift to have a business where the book is really the foundation of it, or at least the methodology underneath the book, and then the book would be the first offer, the first layer, the base of it,
Mhm,
without having to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to try to create a business model that I'm the only one who's using. I'm literally stealing from others in our space, like entrepreneurial experts or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
who have like a very clear business model with the book and then some stuff on top of it. And that's been the idea. And
Mhm.
to answer your question about 3 years, why would someone go through all of that trouble? Very selfishly, it's like, you have an itch in the middle of your back and you can't reach it. And it's me trying to build a tool that helped me to actually scratch that itch, because I genuinely couldn't find an answer to my questions. Like, how do you actually differentiate in detail, like actionable ways to do it repeatedly, whatever you're picking at first? Yeah, it's not easy. None of the book is easy. I don't promise anything that I can't promise. I say
Mhm.
it makes things a bit easier. I never say it's going to 10x your business. None of that, right? But it's actionable, and I just couldn't find anything remotely like that, and so I had to do it, and I never thought it would be taking me 3 years. The biggest hardship was losing 30, yeah, 36, excuse me, $1,000 investing in Scribe Media, which was a sort of a hybrid publishing company slash editing. And essentially, you pay them, and in exchange, they help you all the way from the idea of the book to promoting it. So
Mm.
the cover, the editing, the proofreading, the setting up Amazon properly, the writing of it. Not that they write for you, but like they really help you with the structure or whatever. So I invested that money because I needed the accountability, because I didn't feel comfortable writing a full thing,
Mm.
and it went well until it didn't, until I got an email from them saying, "Hey, contrary to the rumors, Sky Media is still operating." And I was like, "Oh my god, what is this? And then what is going on?" I knew it was well, anyway. Turns out the CEO, the CEO then used funneled all of the money and the profits for his own gain and his own personal brand and stuff like that, and investors and customer realized there was no money left in the company. They had to let go every single people in there and hire like a skeleton crew to run through. And then they got bought out. They got bought by someone else, and
Mm.
so they still operate, but under new leadership. And anyway, they reached out to me saying, "Hey, based on what is left of the project, we can continue working with you, but you'll have to wait until I think Q4 of 2025 to get to work again because they had a backlog. And you have to pay an extra 20 grand or 30 grand to continue, something like that." Anyway,
Phew.
so yeah, that was a big hardship. That set me back quite a while, for a long time, easily
Mm.
a year. But I was still working on it in the methodology. I was testing it with clients. But
Mhm.
that was the biggest one.
That's brutal. So, okay, but you picked yourself up and dusted yourself off, kept going,
Yeah.
and what did you do after that? You just by yourself, or is that when you started getting beta readers?
No, so I then got into a conversation with Joe Pulizzi, who wrote a couple of marketing books. He's a well-known figure in our world, like content marketing and whatever. And we had conversation back and forth on LinkedIn prior to this. And I saw in passing that he was teaming up with Lulu, Lulu. That's
Yeah.
a print-on-demand company, a B Corp
Mhm.
print-on-demand company, to create a service very much like Scribe Media for creators who want to write books. And he reached out and he said that they're looking for authors. And I was like, you know what? You know, pick me up. Let's do it. Because I trusted the guy. So
Yeah.
I got to work really closely with them to help them build the program, to build the services and whatnot. And in exchange, I would get like beneficial kind of rates to keep going. So the
Cool.
cover, even though the branding was done by a friend, a designer, but the
Mhm.
cover, everything that you see, the book, whatever, that's all them. They helped me to edit it, proofread it, making sure it's all okay. And the deal was as well to use their services for the printing of the books, not Amazon.
Mhm.
And I was okay with that. I didn't mind, as long as I could publish the Kindle on Amazon at least.
Mhm.
And they said I could basically use that to sell directly on my website. So with Lulu, you can there's a plugin for Shopify, and you can essentially sell books directly to people without going through Amazon. People buy, it gets fulfilled automatically. I don't see the books, I don't receive them here. They get delivered, done. So
Right.
I kept 100% of the creative control. And in terms of how much I make per book, it's just night and day. Like, it's just so anyway,
Yeah.
the idea was, let's use that to my advantage, right? I cannot
Mhm.
use Amazon for printed books. Let's play on that, and let's take it to Bezos, right? In a sense, and let's just use, at least for a first phase of launch,
Mhm.
that to our advantage, where we can maximize average order value, when I can really maximize profits for the business and cash flow, while getting people to like know the book and whatever. And then once I feel like that first stage has been not dying out, but like it's not as important anymore, then moving on to a traditional book launch where I push Amazon, push reviews, push the normal stuff to play with the algorithm.
Mm. That's very attractive. To me specifically, I'm sure also to listeners. In the Lulu, presumably you get the contact information from the buyers using the Shopify plugin approach? Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the great, like, so we've sold directly on the site, just directly on the site, outside of bulk orders and other stuff. We sold more than 600 copies.
Mhm.
So not all of the customers would have opted in to receive marketing emails and whatever, but the majority did. So
Mhm.
yes, I now have in my Kit account a list of people I know have bought the book. And it's a small thing, but it actually makes such a big difference, because I can
Oh,
send an
yeah, it's
email just to
huge.
them and say, "Can you leave a review on Amazon now?"
Right.
Because, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yes, contact information, all of that is mine. Create, like, everything is mine. So I'm so glad, actually, that this happened this way. I'm so glad that Scribe Media went bankrupt. I'm so glad that Joe Pulizzi pulled me back, because it actually allowed me to be more creative
Mm.
and use the opportunity to do a launch that others wouldn't do. So
Yep.
that's one part of it. The other part was selling directly through Shopify. So I built an entire Shopify website, um, connected to Lulu, and then I played with packages. So the idea was, okay, we are going to launch the book. I've been teasing it for like a year. I would
Yeah.
say at this even more.
Yeah.
You know that because you're reading my emails. I always appreciate you replying and all of that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a marketing ploy. It was just to keep me accountable and genuinely to talk about it and how hard it was, because it was. And so I talked about it.
Mm.
But those people were warm. And my idea was, let's not bring them to an Amazon site where they pay like $9.99 on for a Kindle, and I get two fucking dollars back.
Yeah.
Let's maximize the value, right? So let's solve in our struggles that others don't solve. So I designed three different packages. Um, I designed a basic, a plus, a pro. So the basic was printed copy plus the ebook. The plus package was printed copy, ebook, a couple of video, like very short video on extra um, use cases, um, and swags. So we'll talk about that, because it's probably the third thing I've done differently than most. And then the pro one, especially for marketing business owners, with all of that plus a mini roast. So you would submit your a landing page or whatever, and then I would come back to you with my analysis of it ready. So that was the idea. And I didn't calculate it after launch, because we did some sort of a promo for launch for like 2 weeks, but the average order value is $65. So for the launch, just to repeat it in different way, every single person who bought the book bought it for $65, essentially, not just the book but the package. So
Right.
that was a huge win. Like, that was a that we were so happy, right?
Yes.
Um,
That's great.
so it's not profit, because delivery, because you still need to pay for the book to be printed and whatever, but it's much more than we would have gotten from just pushing to Amazon directly, right? So that's the second way we've done launch differently. And the third one is really leaning on what I call irrational struggles, irrational stuff, having fun, like in the distinctiveness part as well. So behind me is a giant French rooster wearing a purple beret, and that's kind of my mascot, Roger the rooster. And it makes no sense apart from the fact that I'm French and it connects to that, but there's no real connection with what I do day to day. And but people connect with it,
Yeah.
right? And my challenge was, okay, let's come up with the weirdest, funniest, most irrational things we can give in a package featuring this guy. Um, and you will see that people would buy the packages because of it, right?
Yes.
And so talk about like B2B decisions are always rational. They're not, because the pro package contained
I wish
a
this was video. You're holding up
yeah.
a
Well, you're
fanny
recording it.
pack.
So it will be video if we make it a video. You send it to me. I'll put it on my YouTube. So
Okay.
it's a Roger the Rooster fanny pack that I've designed, and it was limited edition, only sent and made for those people who bought the pro package. It's never going to be available again. And the pro package was sold at roughly the same number of was sold for the pro package than the plus package. Plus package had stickers, weird stickers of Roger the Rooster on my face. And yeah, it worked, right? And so we went I'm sure I could have gone weirder, but we went
That's
as
pretty
weird as
weird.
I could with what I had, with
Yeah.
what we had available and whatnot. And
Yeah.
just people love that because it's a bit different, right? It stands the fuck out.
Yeah, I laughed when I saw it.
There, but that's all that matters. And you know what? I got emails from customers saying my 13-year-old daughter literally stole it from me, saying it looks so cool. And my own daughter, who's 3,
Yeah.
loves the stickers, loves the rooster, loves the bag, steal it from me when she goes to my office. And I knew then that was a good idea, because if a 3-year-old likes it, chances are older kids like us will
Yeah.
at least laugh and find it funny, like you did. And that's all that mattered to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Cool. So I've got a couple of stupid follow-up questions, but like, what's in it for Lulu? Are they getting a cut of the printing or like just an upfront payment?
Yeah. So what's in it for them? So yes, obviously, whatever book are printed through me, they make some money. The services, so the publishing service that they've created is called Tilt Publishing. That's Joe Pulitz's venture, was the Tilt, and so the Tilt Publishing now. So yes, they probably make some money through that, but I think the bigger play there is part 4 of my book, which is continuous reaching more people. They seem to make a big push towards like creators in the wide sense of the world. They're sponsoring more conferences now. They're sponsoring the next Kit conference.
Mm,
Um, they're organizing their own conference in Cleveland in August called the Content Entrepreneur Expo. So I think the bigger thing is they were dreaming about this, and now it's happening. People are talking about it
cool.
on podcast for and now it's free publicity for them. I mention it. I'm not paid to do that. And I think that's the longer game for them. They are a B Corp. They are here for the long term,
Mm,
the long run. I never had this discussion with them. Why are they doing it? But that's my guess.
mhm. Okay, because I've looked at Lulu in the past and I've self-published a couple of times, and it's a pain, getting editors individually and the
Oh yeah,
cover, and yeah, it's a pain. You can do it. You can hire freelancers and stuff and get it done, but it is a pain. And then the printing thing, for the longest time, I didn't have anything available in print because I didn't want to sell on Amazon for a variety of
there you go.
reasons. So I just didn't have print books until this year. I put a couple of things on Amazon, more as lead magnets than anything else,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's obviously Amazon has a mess load of traffic. So I
yeah,
applaud your plan to, at some point in the future, when the initial bump kind of ramps down. Yeah, we can talk about that some other time, perhaps. So, okay, so tell me about the launch, because it seemed from the outside, following you on your mailing list and on LinkedIn, it seemed like a massive amount of work. you're creating fanny packs that you're designing yourself. You get this giant, looks like 6 foot tall poster behind you of a rooster. The production of the book in the first place is a huge undertaking. And then launching it, how did you have the time to do all of this?
Look, I don't know how others do it and how others think about those stuff, but I tend to think in terms of this is my one priority. So when writing the book was my priority, that was my pretty much the only thing I was doing aside from writing an email daily and stuff. I didn't do podcast interviews. I didn't do any of those stuff. I didn't speak at
Mhm,
conferences, whatever. So it, that launch was kind of the fun part for me though, because I've been thinking about it for years, like years and years and years and years. So
mm.
couldn't wait to finally do that. So in terms of pure efficiency and productivity, was it stupid for me to build the Shopify site myself? Was it stupid for me to design the fanny pack myself? Yeah, I'm sure I could have found someone who could do it faster, whatever. But I don't want to forget in my business to have fun.
Mm,
And those things were fun to me. And I didn't give a shit about whether I could be more productive. I had fun building the packages. I had fun doing my own thing. I had fun writing the copy. Because for the first time in a while, it really felt like a product I was so proud of, and I could so easily write copy around and create stuff around. It just felt really much easier than anything I've done in the past. And that's why I've done it for fun, like for myself. And I knew that if I had fun doing it, surely others would have fun looking at it and seeing it unfold, right?
oh, yeah, it was, very engaging, I would say. It was, like, super fun to follow along. So, what what were the components of the watch? So, I was following it. I was following you on social media and your email, but for people who didn't do that, maybe after what you just said, maybe you don't have any advice. Maybe your advice is just have fun and tell people about this thing that you're proud of. But are there any things that you could kind of share that are useful takeaways? Did you do something that was a mistake? Did you do something that was a complete waste of time? Would you do
Oh
anything
yeah.
differently?
Yeah. It's always weird because the mistakes you make along the way are the things that stick and where you learn the best way. Like it's just you can read about it in books or whatever, but unless you make the mistake and feel the pain. So, it's always difficult for me to answer would I do it differently. Yeah, there's details I would do differently. So I've sent around 200 packages to friends and people in the industry that I like, um, and beta readers as well. You're a rare intersection of people who helped with the book as a beta reader and someone I admire in the industry. So you got one book package, but anyway. So I've ordered those boxes that are quite big, and in my head they would be easily filled up, but actually that wasn't the case. Big mistake was to actually order those big ass boxes instead of getting like smaller padded just envelopes. That would have been fine. But I
Mm,
wanted the grandiose reveal. So you see, like you're waiting for it to unbox it. Don't expect
yeah.
too much. Um, I took the time to sign them individually as well. I know that I actually yesterday I got a package from another author, and it's very professional. It's like a printed box and whatever, but it's not signed, And I don't know why I care about it so much, but I was just wanted to sign the books because I know some people care about that, and it just felt way more personal. So I've signed every book myself. I've packaged the packages, the actual physical packages myself. So I would do the packages differently. Um, the Before that, I think if we go back to the start in terms of the writing of it, I think it's important to separate two things: the building or rebuilding the methodology and writing the book itself. What took
Mm,
me the longest was the rebuilding of the methodology from scratch, based on the podcast episode conversation I've had, based on all the books I've read, based on the clients I've had and the questions they had and the stuff I couldn't answer, with the actual writing around the methodology, right?
mhm,
So, if I write another book, or if I would to advise someone right now about it, I would say definitely use voice transcription as a way to get to a first draft
mm,
fast.
yeah.
Um, because then once I had that in front of me, it was much easier to cut it and and reduce it down and ask for feedback and whatever. That's when
Yep.
it became fun again, right? So yeah, I would do that more probably as well.
So
Um,
speaking of feedback, what was your experience with the beta readers? And you used Help This Book?
yeah, help this book. Yeah, helpthisbook.com from Rob Fitzpatrick, who wrote
Yep.
a good book called Write Useful Books. That's quite
Mhm.
interesting. Look, this was by far the most valuable activity I've done over the last 5 years. Um, because it kept keeping me accountable, and it forced me to ship a shitty first draft to people and get the ball rolling and really like have a sense of what's going on. So, I'm very lucky to have people who follow what I have to say and what I do, and who were interested in helping. Um, and in total, I selected 70 people across 3 rounds. So I did
70.
3 rounds of beta reading. Yeah. Um, I think you were in round three. I think you saw the most polished version.
I'm not sure.
Um, so every version would get 20, 25 people.
Mhm.
And when I was reading about this process for books specifically, I read that, yeah, maybe 25, 20% would actually do it. But no, most of them did. Like, I was so surprised. 90% maybe of it, like, actually went through the stuff, leave comments and stuff. The, um, the risk with this process, if you're not careful, is to not know how to digest and select the right type of feedback.
Mm.
So it's very easy to go into, oh, let's please everyone. This person says, oh, you need to expand on that. This one says, I don't understand the joke. Like, I made a
Uh-huh.
joke about Star Wars and say, let the hate flow through you. Like I said, as a famous emperor said, let the hate flow through you.
Yeah.
And there was a comment that said, maybe remove this. I didn't understand this. Right. So it's super easy to actually dilute everything based on the feedback. So yes, you need to know what you're gonna say. Yes, this is good. This is interesting feedback. And no, you don't get the joke. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the big risk with this type of activity. But the rewards were phenomenal for me, because at the end of the 3 rounds, I knew with 100% certainty that it was a good book,
Right.
because I just knew.
Yeah.
And it was so much better than the first draft. I mean, this book, I'm so proud of it because of it. It just made it
Right.
so much better.
Yes, I've had a similar experience when, I wrote a software book years ago for O'Reilly, and, you have different editors, developmental editors and copy editors and so forth, and there's a little bit of that. They'll be like, "Well, I don't get this joke," or whatever, or, "I would phrase this differently." I'm like, "No, that's the way I talk, and
Yeah,
I understand what you're
exactly.
saying, but I'm gonna die on this hill for this one." But there was one time when they created an early sort of hand-rolled version of Help This Book where they called it Rough Cuts, O'Reilly Rough Cuts, and you could get
Okay.
they basically published the book as a blog with comments, and
Okay.
people could comment on paragraph at the paragraph level, so it was very similar. Um, and it was I mean, I had the same reaction you did. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is solid gold feedback." Like, they would be calling out things, and I'm like, "Oh, they're right. I forgot to say this thing. Like, I forgot the previous thing that would make this make sense, or I used a word that lots of people misinterpret, and there's a much better synonym that I could use." There's so many solid gold. I mean,
Yeah.
that book did great.
But I tell you what, the most valuable part wasn't in the detail like that. Like, the best feedback I got was a couple of emails of people saying, "Okay, I read through the book. This is what I'm thinking." The bigger stuff, and I found them like
Really.
phenomenal. Like, I think let me pull that up before I start. So a dear friend of mine in the industry uh, actually read through it, and then sent me this huge email. Um, reduce the number of name concept. They add clutter and find them tricky to remember. Um, when you introduce a concept, describe it immediately, preferably in the following sentence. I kept looking back at prior sections that I thought I missed the descriptions. So in the first draft, what I was doing was like saying I was talking about an exercise called maybe the Trojan horse exercise, which is a way
Yep.
to like to give people what they think they need first, and then giving them what they want, and having the best of both worlds. And I wouldn't define it straight away. So I would say like the title subtitle would be the 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 fucking the horse thing. I forgot the name now because I'm brain dead. But and then I would just go on about a story about it and then define it later on. And so now, like in the book now, every single concept that I named that I haven't named before, the next sentence is the definition of it, right? And for everything, right? And it flows so much better. Let me give you another example. Um, oversell at the start. I think you dramatically undersell the benefits of your framework. Most books of this type spend the first 10-20% purely selling the promise before getting into detail. You do this in a few bullet points. I think it harms the book, reducing the reader's motivation and genuinely undersells the quality of your work. So,
Interesting. What was your
yeah,
reaction to that?
I was delighted. Like, genuinely, no, no, seriously, like, I've done that process so many times before, not just for the book, but like when I was working at Hotjar and before. Like I do that so many times that I don't care. I take it for gold. Like it's gold to me. Like I was like, this is so true, right? But I just couldn't see it. So yeah, you just need to know who you're listening to. Again, I selected beta readers. I didn't get anyone to leave comments. It was like a specific group I wanted. I wanted a healthy balance of reluctant marketers, marketing
Yep.
business owners, whatever. But I wanted, a specific type. So yeah, it's so valuable. I mean, I could talk about it for hours.
Yeah. Well, cool. And that, what is it called? Help This Book, right?
Help this book. Yeah,
Help This Book, yeah. And the book that it's sort of spun out of, which is Write Useful Books by Rob Fitzpatrick, it's definitely worth a read for
it's a
anybody
useful
who's thinking
book.
about. Yeah, it is a useful book. Yeah,
It's a useful
it's
book.
a fractal.
It's you can do it other ways, right? You can do it through Google Doc or whatever. The good thing about Help This Book is the fact that um, the comments are pointed, meaning you can't just leave a comment. It's either this is confusing, this is whatever, like this. It's quite. There is a direction to each thing, and
Right.
you can
There's
hide everyone else's comments, and then there is
mhm.
an aggregated view and all of that. So it's better than Google Doc for that. But don't worry too much about the tooling. It's more the process behind it that is incredibly valuable.
Yes, and I think Google Docs in theory would work. It is nice to have this sort of purpose-built thing, but the overarching feedback from both of our experiences is get beta readers. It
Oh,
will make the
absolutely.
thing so much better. And then, you've got 70 people who are invested in the success of the book. So, that's not nothing.
It's just been amazing. Like people were so supportive and yeah, don't be. I mean, I know you talk about it for other type of products and services. The fact that you need to just share or sell before you're ready or before you feel ready. But it's yeah, it made things so much better. And yeah, those people then sent email saying congrats, left a review without me asking for it, and
Mhm.
just yeah, they're just the best. So it was really good experience.
So at this point, what is it? January, we're recording on January 14th, 2025. And how long has it been out? Couple of months?
Since 2 months.
2 months. And what phase are you in now, would you say?
So now we're gonna go to global world domination. So um, so we have like around 30 reviews on Goodreads. We have reviews on my site as well that were collected directly through Shopify. I think one review or two review on Amazon because I never pushed Amazon even though it's there. So now, yeah, the next phase is Amazon push. So we're gonna set up a 99-cent offer on the Kindle for a
Yep.
couple of weeks. Encourage people who are ready to leave a review this way, and then setting up the ads for Amazon, where like if people search for Seth Godin, they can find Stand Up Out because it's related or whatever.
Mhm.
And hopefully then keep doing what I'm doing now. So a bit more speaking, a bit more podcast interviews with people I like, and hoping that then word of mouth and the reach, the continuous reach I'm trying to do picks up. We've sold in total, if I count um, Amazon, Kindle, my site, plus orders for events that I'm speaking at. We sold more than, I think, 1,300 copies.
In 2 months. Wow,
So
that's great.
yeah, yeah. So the objective was 1,000 in 3 months. So we've done that in 2 months or even less. So very happy with that. But I'm happier with the reviews and the feedback. It's been amazing. Been really good to see. I'm just so proud of it.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great book. People should check it out. What you mentioned a couple of times the sort of bulk sales and event sort of thing. Is that could you talk a little bit? That's something I've
Sure.
never done. I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I'm got invited to speak at a couple of marketing conferences this year, and I used to say no to them prior to the book, but now it makes sense. So instead of a speaking fee, I'm getting them to order. So, for example, there is one that I've ordered 400 copies. So
Mm,
every single attendee of that event will get a copy
nice.
as a bonus or whatever, and I charge for that instead of a speaking fee.
Mhm.
So that enables me to have. It's not to game the algorithm. There's a way to do that, or to become a New York Times bestseller and whatever, where
Yeah.
you get them to buy. You basically buy them in bulk and then you inflate the number. That's not at all for that. It's purely for to get my work in front of as many people as possible,
Mhm.
right? So
Mm,
it's all
right.
like I don't care if you don't buy them buy it directly. I know that if you like the book, you might rebuy it, you might talk about it, and that's more than enough. So yes, that's how to do it. And with Lulu, not to like plug their stuff, it's just the way I do it. It's super easy to do. It's literally you go through your dashboard, 400 books delivered where, boom, and then within 2-3 weeks you receive
Oh my
10
god.
boxes of fucking books.
That's a dream.
Yeah.
That sounds
So it's
great. Yeah. So,
that's how I do it.
sponsored by Lulu.
Yeah.
This episode
Yeah, I don't like you
sponsored by
see I
Lulu.
think, it answers your question from before, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah. That's great. It's very attractive. Cool. Well, geez, I mean, normally at the end, I say, where can people go to find out more
Yeah,
about,
okay.
give you a chance to promote what you're doing? So obviously,
Yeah.
folks should go to, well, you can share the URLs.
It's so the offer specifically for you listening
Yes,
that I've built this morning is stfo.link/teaching hourly in one
cool.
word.
Hmm.
But if you just Google stand the fuck out, you'll find the book, you'll find everything else.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the success so far. I'm sure it will continue into the future. And thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for your time and for your questions, and thank you for allowing me to talk about my new favorite thing.
All right, folks. That's it for this week. I'm Jonathan Stark, and I hope you join me again next time on Ditching Hourly. Bye.